stood in the great hall of her crystalline house and listened to the sounds around her. She heard the soft footsteps of her servants moving across the plush floor. She felt the warmth of their bodies as they passed near her. She sensed the vibrations in the air when they whispered to each other. That was how she had always known her world. That was how every knew their world. They had no eyes. They had never needed them. Their bodies could feel heat from across the room. Ears could map the shape of a space through sound alone. To them, the concept of sight was as strange as breathing underwater. It was different from any other day in her long reign. Today she would marry a human. The thought still felt strange in her mind. For years of negotiations between Earth and the Empire had led to them on. Both sides wanted the rich minerals in the Orion sector. Both sides had warships ready to fight for them. Millions could die if war broke out. So the diplomats had found another way, a marriage between their peoples, a bond that would tie their futures together. Greed because she understood duty. She was a queen before she was a woman. Her desires meant nothing compared to the lives of her people, but she could not pretend she was not afraid. Humans were strange creatures. They relied on something called sight, a sense that let them perceive the world through light. She could not imagine what that meant. How could anyone understand something they had never experienced? It would be like explaining color to someone who had only ever known darkness. Chief Advisor, High Priest, approached her. She felt his familiar heat signature and heard his measured breathing. He had been against the marriage from the start. He believed humans were dangerous and deceptive. He believed they would use their strange eyes to manipulate and control. Human has arrived, said. His voice carried disapproval like a heavyweight. He waits in the receiving chamber. Let us not keep him waiting, replied. She kept her voice calm even though her hearts were beating fast inside her chest. They had two hearts, and right now both of them were pounding. Through the corridors of her palace with practiced ease, she knew every curve and texture of these walls. She had traced them with her fingers since childhood. The palace was carved from living crystal that grew deep in the mountains of her world. It hummed with a low frequency that only her people could hear. To her, it was a song of home. She wondered what the human would think of it. Could his strange eyes see the beauty she felt in these walls? Seeing chamber doors open before her, she stepped inside and immediately sensed a new presence. A different kind of warmth. Human body temperature ran slightly higher than she could feel him standing near the center of the room. His heat was strong and steady. His breathing was controlled, but she detected a slight quickening. He was nervous too. A female voice said, "That would be Ambassador Shaw, the human who had arranged everything. May I present Lieutenant Commander Dane Cole? He has volunteered to be your husband in this alliance." Tyrd found that word interesting. She had expected the humans to force someone into this duty, but the man had chosen it himself. She wanted to know why. Thus command. She heard the shuffle of feet as her servants and guards departed. Ambassador Shaw hesitated for a moment before following them. Soon only and Danny remained in the great chamber. "Speak freely," he said. "There are no listeners here. The walls of this chamber do not carry sound." "Your Majesty." His voice was deeper than she had expected. It had a roughness to it that suggested he had spent time shouting orders. A military man then. "I want you to know that I take this seriously. This is not a game to me." "Did you volunteer?" she asked directly. "Your people must have many men who could have been ordered to do this. Why choose it yourself?" There was a pause. She felt his heat signature shift as he moved slightly, thinking about his Anna perhaps. "So I have seen war," Deng said. "I have seen what it costs. Good people dying for nothing. Families destroyed. Worlds burned. If marrying you can prevent that from happening again, then it is the easiest choice I have ever made." Something unexpected at his words. Respect. He was not here for glory or advancement. He was here because he genuinely wanted to prevent suffering. That was more than she had hoped for. "I cannot see you," she said. "My people have no eyes. We never evolved them. I will never know your face the way your people know each other. Does that trouble you?" "No," Danny answered without hesitation. "I have learned that what you see is often the least important thing about a person. I would rather you know my heart than my face." Tilted her head at that. It was a strange thing for a human to say. From what her advisors had told her, humans placed great importance on physical appearance. Perhaps that one was different. "The ceremony will begin at sunset," she told him, "or what your people call sunset. We will exchange heat signatures instead of rings. It is our most sacred bond. Once it is done, there is no breaking it." "Understand," Dang said. She stepped close to him. She could feel the warmth radiating from his body. She reached out and her fingers found his hand. His skin was softer than she had expected. Warmer. "You are binding yourself to a woman you cannot truly know, a woman from a species you do not understand. You are giving up your life among your own kind." "Respect, your Majesty," Dang said, and she felt his fingers close gently around hers. "I think we have more time to understand each other than either of us expected. I am not giving up my life. I am starting a new one." They're holding the hand of her future husband. She still could not imagine what he looked like. She did not know the color of his eyes or the shape of his smile, but she knew the stings of his heartbeat through his palm. She knew the courage in his voice. Perhaps that would be enough. Manhattan, as the binary sun sank below the horizon, could not see their light, but she felt their warmth fade from the air. Hundreds have gathered in the great hall. Danny stood beside her before High Priest, who spoke the ancient words of bonding. When the moment came, pressed her palm against Danny's chest, and he pressed his against hers. They exchanged their heat signatures, their unique thermal patterns that no two beings shared. In the eyes of her people, they were now one. So began the first night of Queen's marriage to a human. She had no idea what lessons it would teach her. She only knew that everything was about to change. Chambers were silent, kept for the soft hum of the crystal walls. Stood near the center of the room and listened to Dan's footsteps as he explored the space. He moved slowly, carefully. She could tell he was being respectful of a place that was not his own. The servants had left them alone after the ceremony. Food and drink sat on a table nearby, but neither of them had touched it. There was too much uncertainty hanging in the air between them. "Walls are warm," Dang said finally. His voice echoed slightly in the curved chamber. "I did not expect that." "Crystal is alive," explained. "It grows from the mountains over thousands of years. We shape it, but we do not kill it. The warmth you feel is its life force. It is beautiful." Paused at that word, beautiful. Humans used it often according to her studies. It was connected to their sense of sight, a way of describing things that pleased their eyes. "I do not know what beautiful means," she admitted. "Not truly. I people have other words for things we appreciate. We say something is harmonious when its sounds please us. We say it is radiant when its warmth comforts us. But beautiful is a human word. It belongs to your eyes." It was quiet for a moment. She felt him move closer to her. His warmth grew stronger as the distance between them shrank. "Now try to explain," he asked. "Please." "I say these walls are beautiful. I mean they get the light in a way that makes me feel something. The crystal has colors inside it, purples and blues and silvers that shift when I move. It looks like froze starlight. When I look at it, I feel wonder. I feel like I am seeing something rare and precious." Listen carefully. She was trying to build a picture in her mind, but it was like trying to hold water in her fingers. The concepts kept slipping away. What color, she asked. Let out a small breath. Not frustration, she decided. More like the weight of trying to explain the impossible. It's how light looks when it bounces off different things. Everything has a color. Your skin is a pale silver, almost like moonlight. The crystal walls are deep purple with veins of blue. My uniform is dark green. Each color creates a different feeling when we see it. And what feeling does my color create? Had not meant to ask something so personal. The question escaped before she could stop it, but she found that she genuinely wanted to know. What did this human see when he looked at her? Sting said softly, your color is calm and cool, like standing by quietly at night, like the first breath of winter air. Warmth spread through her chest. It was not the warmth of temperature, it was something else, something she had no word for. I want to understand you, she said, not as a political partner, not as an obligation. I want to understand who you are beneath all of that. Then ask me anything. She shot toward him. Her fingers found his arm first, then traveled up to his shoulder, his neck, his face. He held perfectly still as she traced the shape of him. His jaw was strong and angular. His nose had a small ridge that suggested it had been broken before. His hair was short and rough beneath her fingertips. His ears were rounded where hers were pointed. Face is texture, she observed. Small rough pads on your chin and cheeks. It's called stubble, Dan said. She could hear a slight smile in his voice. Human males grow hair on their faces. I shaved that morning, but it grows back quickly. Does it serve a purpose? Not anymore. It is left over from a time when we needed protection from cold. Now it is just something we deal with. That amusing. Her people had evolved exactly what they needed and nothing more. Humans seemed to carry remnants of their past in their very bodies. Fingers moved to his eyes. He closed them as she touched. The skin there was thin and delicate. She could feel small movements beneath the surface. His eyes were moving even while closed. So what let you see, she murmured. Two small organs that show you the entire universe. Yes. What do you see when you look at me? He opened his eyes. She felt the tiny shift as his eyelid lifted. His gaze was on her now. She knew that even if she could not perceive it. A one who carries enormous weight on her shoulders but never complains. I see strength in the way you hold yourself, grace in the way you move. I see someone who is afraid but faces that fear anyway. And I see something else, something I did not expect. What is that? In the tilt of your head when you listen, in the softness of your voice when you speak. You are not the cold ruler your reputation suggests. Her hands from his face. She stepped back and tried to process what he had said. Her advisors had warned her that humans would use pretty words to manipulate her, but she could not detect any deception in his voice. His heartbeat had remained steady. His breathing had not changed. Either he was telling the truth or he was the greatest liar she had ever encountered. I would my reputation say I am cold. You have to be, Dan said simply. You are a queen. You make decisions that affect millions of lives. If you let yourself feel too much, the weight of it would destroy you. So you build walls, you keep people at a distance. I understand that. I have done the same thing. Turned away from him. She walked to the curved wall and pressed her palm against the living crystal. Its warmth soothed her. Are very perceptive for someone who has only known me for a few hours. Pay attention, Dan replied. Your sight is foreign to me, but I have other sense too. I have been watching you all day, not just with my eyes, but with everything else. The way you breathe, the way you hold your hands, the small movements you make when you are thinking. You reveal more than you realize. We are alike, said. I have been doing the same thing, listening to you, feeling the heat of your emotions rise and fall. You are nervous but not afraid. You are uncertain but not unwilling. And there is something else beneath all of that, something heavier. Heard his breath slowly. His heat signature flickered. She had done something painful. What do you sense? He asked quietly. Back to face him, even without sight she could feel his gaze on her, heavy and waiting. She said, oh, grief that you carry with you always. It is like a cold spot in your warmth, a shadow in your fire. He did not respond for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rougher than before. All right, but that is a story for another time. Tonight, I would rather learn about you than talk about my own pain. But that, everyone carried wounds they were not ready to share. She would not force him, but she filed the knowledge away. This man who had volunteered to marry an alien queen was carrying something broken inside him. Perhaps understanding that would be the key to understanding him. Let us learn about each other, she said. We have the whole night ahead of us. I deepened around them. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, the binary suns had fully set and darkness covered them. And Danny had moved to a seating area where cushions were arranged in a circle. It was a traditional space for intimate conversation. She sat across from him and felt his warmth like a gentle flame in the cool room. Advisors warned me about humans, he said. They said your species uses sight to judge and deceive. They said you can lie with your faces while your mouth speak truth. It's not entirely wrong, Danny admitted. Humans can smile while they hate you. They can look you in the eyes and tell you lies without flinching. It is one of the dark parts of our nature. Does it not frighten your own people? How do you know who to trust? Learn to read other signs, tone of voice, body language, the small things that do not match the words. But you are right, it makes trust harder for us. We have to choose to believe people even when we cannot be certain. The deeply unsettling. Her people could always detect lies. The heart rhythm changed when someone spoke falsely. The heat of the body shifted. Deception was nearly impossible among them. The idea of living in a world where anyone could lie at any time seemed exhausting. I have a way to know if you are telling the truth, he said. Oh, this. Leaned forward and held out her hand. Place my palm over your heart. Among my people, the heart cannot lie. Its rhythm changes when we speak falsely. Even the smallest deception creates a flutter. He did not hesitate. He took her hand and pressed it against his chest. She felt the steady beat beneath his ribs. His heart was strong and rhythmic. It beat faster than a heart, but it had its own kind of music. Ask me anything, he said. The weight of the moment. There was a chance to learn who the man truly was. She had to choose her question carefully. Did you volunteer for this marriage only to prevent war? His heart beat steady. Yes, that was my only reason at the start. I did not want to watch more people die for something that could be solved another way. Truth, she could feel it in his rhythm. Do you find me strange? Quickening, honest consideration before he answered. Yes, you are different from anyone I have ever known, but strange is not the same as bad. I find you fascinating. Truth again, she pressed deeper. Are you afraid of me? Oh, steady and certain. I was afraid before I met you, afraid of the unknown, but since we have been talking that fear has faded. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? Cold ruler. Someone who saw me as nothing more than a political tool. Someone who would use me and discard me when I was no longer useful. Instead, I found someone who wants to understand. Someone who asks questions because she genuinely wants to know the answers. His heart was beating slightly faster now, not from fear or deception. Had felt this rhythm before. It was the beat of genuine emotion. He was feeling something as he spoke. More question, she said softly. The grief I sent in you earlier, will you tell me what it comes from? His heart stumbled, a catch in the rhythm that lasted only a moment before smoothing out again. Pain, old pain that he usually kept buried. Do not have to answer, she added quickly. I know I am pressing in places that hurt. Oh, his voice was rough. You shared something honest with me when you admitted you cannot understand my sight. You made yourself vulnerable. I should do the same. Her hand on his chest, she could feel his lungs expand as he took a deep breath, repairing himself. Years ago, I commanded a rescue mission. A civilian transport had been attacked by raiders near the border system. 27 people were trapped in a damaged ship that was slowly losing atmosphere. My team and I reached them in time. We docked with their vessel. We started bringing people across. Paused, his heart was beating harder now. The memory was painful. The raiders came back. They hit us with everything they had. My ship was crippled. We had to detach from the transport or we would have been destroyed along with them. But the people, said softly, the ones still on the transport. 14 of them did not make it across in time. 14 people who trusted me to save them. 14 people who watched my ship fly away while they suffocated in the dark. His heart was pounding now. She could feel the rhythm of guilt and grief beating against her palm. This was the wound he carried, the cold spot in his warmth, the shadow that never left him. You could not have saved them, he said. Maybe, may not. I have run the numbers 1,000 times. If I had been faster, if I had made different choices, if I had stayed just 30 more seconds, you would have died with them. At least then I would not have to live with the memory. Close to him, she placed her other hand on his shoulder. She could feel the tension in his muscles, the way he was holding himself together through sheer will. My people, we believe that grief is a form of love. It is the love we feel for those we have lost, transformed into pain because we cannot give it to them anymore. The fact that you still carry this weight after 3 years tells me something important about you. What? You are the kind of man who cares so deeply that loss breaks something inside you. That is not weakness, Danny. That is the most human thing I have ever encountered. Felt his breath catch. His heart stuttered and then began to slow. Something was releasing inside him, something he had held onto for far too long. Advisors were wrong about humans, continued. They told me your species was cold and calculating. They said you only cared about power and control. But you carry the weight of 14 strangers like they were your own family. You volunteered to marry someone you have never seen just to prevent more suffering. Whatever else humans are, you are not cold. He was quiet for a long moment. His heart had settled into a new rhythm, slower, calmer, like a storm that had finally passed. You, he said finally, I have never told anyone that story, not completely. I did not think anyone would understand. Understand loss, replied. I understand the weight of decisions that cost lives. I am a queen. Every choice I make affects millions. Some of those choices lead to death no matter which path I take. The weight of it never leaves you, but you learn to carry it. You learn to keep moving. Felt his hand come up to cover hers where it rested on his chest. His fingers were warm and gentle. In that moment, something shifted between them. They were no longer just political partners. They were two people who understood each other's pain. I think I was meant to meet you, Dan said quietly. Not just for the alliance, for this. For someone who could finally see what I carry. Cannot see anything, reminded him with a slight smile in her voice. But I can feel it, and sometimes that is enough. First light of the binary suns began to creep over the horizon. Dan could see it through the curved windows of the royal chamber. The sky was turning from deep black shades of violet and gold. It was one of the most stunning sunrises he had ever witnessed. Two stars riding together, their light blending into colors that Earth had never known. What is happening? Asked. She had felt him shift his attention toward the window. Your warmth has changed. You are feeling something. Suns are rising, Dan said. I want to describe it to you. Will you let me try? Her face toward the window even though she could not see it. It was a reflex, he realized. Her people must have learned to orient themselves toward heat sources even without eyes. Please, she said. Stood and gently guided her to the window. They stood side by side, her hand resting on his arm so she could feel his movements and reaction. Now the sky is mostly dark purple, like the deepest part of the ocean, but at the edge where the suns are coming up there is a line of gold. Not yellow exactly. It is richer than that, warmer, like honey mixed with fire. Paused to let her absorb his words. Her head was tilted slightly as she listened. She was building something in her mind, he realized, trying to construct an image from his words alone. Gold is spreading now. It is pushing the purple back like a tide washing over sand, and inside the gold there are streaks of orange and pink. The clouds are catching the light. They look like they are made of colored smoke. Clouds, read? I know what those are. We feel them when they has overhead. They block the warmth of the suns. Yes, but to the eye they are beautiful. Right now they are lit up from beneath. They glow like lanterns floating in the sky. What else? For sun is breaking the horizon now. It is a ball of brilliant white at the center, surrounded by rings of orange and red. Looking at it directly would hurt my eyes. It is too bright, but I can watch the edges where the light spills out across the land. Felt the grip tighten on his arm. She was leaning forward slightly, as if trying to get closer to something she could never reach. The second sun is smaller and bluer. It rises just behind the first. Together they paint everything in two kinds of light. The white sun makes sharp shadows. The blue sun makes softer ones. When they overlap, the world looks like it has double edges. You speak like a poet, said softly. Never thought of myself that way, but trying to describe this to you makes me see it differently. I have watched hundreds of sunrises in my life. I never stopped to really notice them. Now I am trying to put something into words that I have always taken for granted. But in silence as the suns continued to rise, Dan kept describing what he saw. The way the light moved across the crystal spires of the city below. The way the shadows shortened as the suns climbed higher. The way flocks of creatures he did not recognize flew across the brightening sky in patterns that looked like living calligraphy. Finally spoke, I wanted to ask you something. Anything? Will you be my eyes? Turned to look at her. Her face was turned toward the window. The light of the binary suns played across her silver skin, making it shimmer like polished metal. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with human standards. She was beautiful because of what she was, not in spite of it. What do you mean? Never see the things you describe. My people did not evolve that sense. It is not sense to me because I have never known anything different. But now that I have heard your words, I feel like there is a whole world I have been missing. I want you to share it with me, not just today, every day. Tell me what you see so that I can experience it through you. Felt something shift in his chest. This was not what he had expected when he volunteered for the mission. He had expected cold politics and careful distance. He had expected to be tolerated, not valued. But here was this queen asking him to share his very perception of reality with her. It was the most intimate request anyone had ever made of him. Yes, he said, I will be your eyes, but I want something in return. Name it. Me to perceive without sight. Show me how you experience the world. Let me learn to feel heat and vibration and sound the way your people do. I have relied on my eyes my whole life. I have been blind to everything they cannot show me. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. Her face transformed with it. The cold, queenly mask fell away, and underneath was someone warm and real and wonderfully alive. That seemed like a fair raid, he said. Spent the remaining hours of the morning teaching each other, led him to the walls of the chamber, and guided his hands across the surface. The living crystal was covered in patterns he had not noticed before, raised lines and curves that formed intricate design. This is written, she explained. We read with our finger. This passage is from our old text. It describes the creation of our world. Traced the lines slowly. He could feel the shapes, but they meant nothing to him. It was like looking at a book in a language he could not read. Said, she placed her hands over his and guided his fingers. Feel the rhythm of it. Each symbol has a flow. The sharp angles represent strength. The curves represent growth. This second peaks of fire emerging from darkness. Slowly and possibly, Dan began to understand. Not the meaning of the words exactly, but the feeling behind them. The texture told a story. The patterns had emotion built into their very shape. It was nothing like reading with his eyes. It was something deeper, more primal. I never knew, he whispered. I never knew there was so much I was missing. And I never knew what light could mean to someone who could see it, replied. We have both been living with only half the world. Moved through the chamber together. Dang described the art that hung on the walls, pieces that had decorated the royal quarters for generations, and never known what they looked like. She had only known their heat signatures and the slight sounds they made when air moved past them. Now Dang painted them for her with words, the colors, the shapes, the emotions they evoked. Turn taught him to listen more carefully. She showed him how to hear the subtle differences in the way sound bounced off different surfaces. She taught him to feel the tiny variations in air pressure that told her when someone entered a room. She opened his ears to symphony he had been ignoring his entire life. By the time the suns reached their peak, they were both exhausted, but neither wanted to stop. They had found something unexpected in each other, not just understanding but completion. Two different ways of perceiving the universe coming together to form something larger than either one alone. I know what I learned tonight, Sid finally. It was not what I expected. What did you learn? Connection does not require similarity, that two beings can be completely different in how they experience the world and still find a way to meet in the middle. I learned that my advisors were wrong about humans, but more than that, I learned they were wrong about what matters. Reached out and found his hand. She held it gently. Sight and heat sensing, eyes and echolocation. These are just tools. What matters is the willingness to share them. What matters is finding someone who wants to understand. I squeezed her hand. I learned something too. What? I have been carrying my grief alone because I thought no one could understand. But you felt it without me saying a word. You saw what I was hiding even though you cannot see it all. Maybe I have been looking at the wrong things my whole life. Maybe what I needed was never visible in the first place. They stood together in the light of the binary suns. A human and a man with eyes and a queen without them. Two people who had found something near expected. Beginning. The throne room was filled with tension. Could feel it in the heat signatures of the bodies packed into the grid space. She could hear it in the hushed whispers that stopped whenever she and Dan walked past. Everyone was waiting. Everyone was expecting something. Priest stood near the throne, his disapproval radiating like cold air. He had never wanted this alliance. He had spent months trying to convince that humans were dangerous, that bringing one into the royal family would weaken their empire. Now he waited to see if his warnings would prove true. The other side of the room stood Ambassador Shaw. She was flanked by two human guards in formal uniforms. Could feel their elevated heart rates from across the chamber. They were nervous. Ambassador Shaw herself maintained a calm exterior, but her heat signature kept flickering. She was worried about something. Both sides expected her to report that the human could be controlled and used for advantage. He wanted to hear that their species was superior, and that the alliance would serve their interests above all else. Ambassador Shaw expected Danny to have gathered intelligence. She wanted to know weaknesses, political leverage, anything that could give Earth an advantage in future negotiations. Both of them were about to be disappointed. Danny walked to the center of the room. They moved together in a way that made people notice, not touching but connected. Their steps fell into the same rhythm. When one turned, the other adjusted. It was the kind of unconscious synchronization that only came from genuine understanding. Queen said, his voice formal and cold. The council waits your report on the marriage alliance. We wish to know what you have learned about our new human partner. Dang tensed slightly beside her. She reached out and touched his arm briefly, a signal between them, trust me. I've learned a great deal, said, her voice carried across the silent chamber, but not what you expected to hear. And to address the full assembly, hundreds of nobles and officials filled the room, all of them blind, all of them perceiving her through heat and sound and vibration. She had stood before them countless times. She had delivered speeches that shaped the fate of worlds, but this moment felt different. This moment would change everything. 3 years we have negotiated with humanity. For 3 years our advisors have warned us about their nature. They told us humans are deceptive because they can lie with their faces. They told us humans are dangerous because they rely on a sense we do not possess. They told us that alliance was necessary but that we should never trust our human partner. Paused, the room was utterly silent. I've learned that our advice were wrong. Love's surprise moved through the crowd. His heat signature flared with anger, continued before he could interrupt. So not the cold and calculating creatures we were warned about. They carry warmth inside them that even the blind can feel. This man beside me volunteered to leave everything he knew to marry someone he had never seen because he wanted to prevent a war that would kill millions. He did not ask for power. He did not ask for advantage. He asked only for the chance to build something that could save lives. Turned to Faye Denning. She could not see his expression, but she could feel his heart being steady and strong. Our first night together, I placed my hand on his chest and asked him to speak truth. His heart never lied, not once. He told me about his fears, his hopes, his grief. He shared parts of himself that he had hidden from his own people for years. He made himself vulnerable to someone he had every reason to distrust. Stepped forward, his voice was clear and carried well. He had been trained for public speaking, realized. He knew how to command a room. Dr. Shaw, he said, I know you expected me to report on weaknesses. I know Earth sent me here hoping I would gather intelligence that could be used in future negotiations. As heat signal flickered again, Dan continued. I'll do that, not because I am disloyal to Earth, but because I have learned something that changes everything. They are not our enemies. They are not even our rivals. They are people who perceive truth in ways we have forgotten. They feel lies in the rhythm of a heart. They sense emotions in the heat of a body. They cannot be deceived the way we deceive each other. Turn to Faith Assembly. We are not the threat you fear. Yes, we can lie with our faces. Yes, we can hide our true feeling behind massive expression. But that ability exists because we learned long ago that honesty is dangerous. We built walls around ourselves because we had no other protection. They have your truth sense. Humans had nothing, so we adapted. The mood in the room shifting. Dan was reaching them. His words were landing. I've seen what happens when those walls come down, Dan continued. Last night, your queen asked me to be honest with her. She gave me a way to prove my truth. And when I lowered my walls, when I let her feel what I really carried inside, something amazing happened. We understood each other, not as queen and consort, not as inhuman, as two people who had both been carrying weight alone. Turn back to face and bow to Shaw directly. It's worth more than any intelligence I could gather. That is worth more than any political advantage. If our species can truly understand each other, we do not need to be rivals. We can be partners, real partners, not because of treaties and agreements, but because we actually trust each other. I was silent. The whole room was silent. Stepped forward to stand beside Danny. This is what I propose, she said. Let the marriage be the first of many bridges between our people. Not political arrangements, but genuine connection. Let humans come to our world and learn to perceive without sight. Let go to Earth and learn what eyes can show. Let us share our senses the way Danny and I shared ours last night. Found Danny's hand and held it. She felt his fingers close around hers. I've spent 3 years arguing over minerals and territories. We have wasted time and resources preparing for a war that would have destroyed both our peoples. Last night I learned there is another way. It is harder than fighting. It requires more courage than in battle, but it is possible. When he spoke, his voice was sharp with challenge. You ask us to trust creatures who can lie without detection. You ask us to believe that one night has changed everything. I ask you to believe what you can feel for yourself, replied calmly. Both of them are standing before you. Feel their heat. Listen to their hearts. You have always trusted those senses. Trust them now. Somebody fell silent again, knew what they were doing. They were reaching out with their heat sense. They were listening to Danny's heartbeat, to Shaw's breathing, to every signal that their bodies could not hide. They were looking for deception and finding none. For a long moment, one of the elder nobles spoke. The human's heart is steady. He speaks truth. The voice joined in. The ambassador is uncertain but not hostile. She did not expect this. Voices, more confirmation. The truth was spreading through the room like warmth from a fire. Resistance crumbled. He could not argue with what everyone in the room could feel. Danny was genuine. The connection between him and was real. And it seems, said slowly, that we have much to reconsider. Ren Danny stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The binary suns had passed their peak and were beginning their slow descent toward evening. Below them, crowds had gathered. News of the assembly had spread quickly. People wanted to see the human who had won their queen's trust. What do you see? He asked. And looked out at the scene below. Thousands had filled the streets. Their heat signature must have been overwhelming his senses. But there was something else too. Movement, color, joy. Celebrating, Danny said. Some of them are dancing. Others are gathered in groups, talking excitedly. Children are running through the crowd playing games. The sunlight is catching the crystal buildings and making everything glow. I can feel the vibrations through the stone, the rhythm of their movement. It is a happy rhythm. You know what I see most of all? What? I see people who were afraid of the unknown deciding to embrace it instead. I see two worlds that could have destroyed each other choosing to build something together. It against him slightly. He put his arm around her. It felt natural now. It felt right. What happened next? She asked. Do not know. This is new territory for both our peoples. There will be challenges, misunderstandings, moments when we fail to bridge the gap. But we will keep trying. Yes, we will keep trying. Tilted her head up toward his face even though he could not see it. Her hand found his cheek. I never expected that when I agreed to the marriage. I expected duty and obligation. I expected to tolerate my human husband at best. Instead, I found someone who makes me want to understand everything I have been missing. And I found someone who showed me that the things I see are only half the story. You opened my ears and my heart. You taught me to perceive without looking. Together as the suns continued to set. She could not see the colors changing in the sky, but she could feel the warmth shifting on her skin. He described it to her anyway. Purples and oranges. The way the clouds caught fire and then faded to gray. This is a good day, he said finally. I do not need to see to know that. He took her hand. They had built something neither species thought possible. Not just a political alliance. Not just a strategic marriage. They had built trust. In the end, that was worth more than all the minerals in the Orion sector. Below them, the celebration continued. Two worlds learning to see each other clearly. One through eyes that perceived light. One through senses that perceived truth. Together, they would find a way forward. Together, they had already begun.